How's it going, everyone? This is Wimbo. Today I'm going to show you how I did it, this pretty realistic looking water effect in Blender. Yes, as you can see here, this is the scene. And suddenly you realize, oh, that's disappointing because I use a actual image for that render. Well, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. But the thing is, when you look at this a render, you need to think about this as a problem solving process. If you had any experience with working with water and trying to having pretty nice water reflections in Blender and trying to texture around them, right now it seems impossible with the Blender 2.9, but I know in the future there will be more things coming up. But because of the materials we can actually put it on, and also the cycle render engine we use, it doesn't give us the actual water effect. So how can we run over with it? What I did was not that simple, which is and also relatively simple because I'm using a simple plane for from an image plane. But what I did a little bit different is I'm actually adding a layer of water materials, kind of like a glass. But I have something going on with this kind of ripple effect going on right here. So I put a layer on the top of it, so adding more little bit realistic looking. Although this picture already looks pretty nice and pretty interesting as a background. And how can you do that as using this? Is basically you need to go to the preference and to really enable a add-on. It's called import image as a plane. Yes, you see here, import images as a plane, and check it out. And then you can just drag pictures into your file to do that. And the next thing, as you can see here, again, because I'm a photographer, I really want you guys to understand how important lighting is going to be for your renders. For this particular render, you can see it's pretty simple. It's just water, a block, something like that, and a picture in the background. And then we have a big giant light source right here, and to utilize this to actually creating a highlight over here. You can see here. So I'm open the light folder right here. So if I'm shut off this light, you wouldn't see the lighting effect right here, right? So I have to turn it on in order to have this highlight, have a nice crisp look for this. And you can see here is like where this light is going on here, but you don't see anything from the render view. It's simply because I turned it off that the viewer display, the viewport display, I believe. I'm just go down here, visibility. So you go to here, it's called a object properties, and then you go down here to visibilities. You just turn off the camera thing. You don't have to do that, but sometimes when I'm working with this texture, it's actual texture on the plane. So if I'm actually moving around, so sometimes it can block the view directly on the camera. So sometimes I just quickly turn it off, the visibility on the camera, so you wouldn't see anything. But it's still having the lighting in here. It's amazing for photographers, man. Usually, if you want lighting some scenes. In the actual studios, you have to cut a hole in order to let the camera look through it. But now you don't need it anymore. Amazing CG, I know. And then anyway, so another thing I want to point it out is this, because this is kind of liquid inside, and sometimes you don't have to do everything accurately and then put a light on. You need to think about how can we demonstrating the whole thing more better and utilize lighting. So it's a problem solving process. It's not really have to do everything super accurate based on physics, anything. You just need to think how can we do that and solve the problem. So in here, if I'm actually showing you, here's another light in the background here. I put another 2 area light in behind this liquid. So this is another lighting tips. Usually for liquid, you want to have a backlight lid to having actually some light going through the background to make the liquid looks nice and clear. Otherwise, if I turn off this air light, then you wouldn't see anything from background. It's physically accurate based on what we did for the actual liquid textures, but it's not you need some light going through in there, and that's why I put a light in behind, and it actually give you all the colors, all the details for the bubbles and everything. It works the way it is, much better. So this one as well. So I have 2 lights behind that to showing that the whole thing. Yeah. So and also for here, as you can see here, the shadow down here is a little bit soft, but it still have kind of a little bit strong feeling. It was because I utilizing 2 lights. So here's one, the sun. So the good reason for that, let me turn off this big front light, side light for the highlight. Let me turn it off that. So you can see here, so having this sun going on here. So if I'm also hiding this liquid, so it actually gonna produce a pretty harsh light, shadows going on here. And because this is scene, think about it, you want to creating a pretty bright and also a sunny type of field with these color lighting effect going on. So you want to really match the scene. So you're not really going to just drag an image, put in the scene, and then you are hoping you are going to coming out a good render when you're using an image as background. You need to have a good knowledge about how light works and how how this elements and colors really cohesively working well with a image. So this is what I did over here. So having that and putting another like big light source is gonna soften up the shadow quite well, and we're still maintaining the colors, the shadows around them looks pretty nice, and that actually giving some good shapes of this render. So that's kind of pretty much it. Another thing, well, some of you guys were wondering how I made this actually the water surface and when using my renders, and I didn't using any special add-on anything. This is actual a mesh, right? If I hit tabs, it's a big mesh. You see all the surface going on here. There's a couple of things you can do. You can use an actual sculpture mode where you can using sculpting tools to kind of getting this ripple effect, but I don't know, I'm not really a sculptor for in the CG yet. I've been practicing it, but it's not in my taste. So what I did for this one, I utilizing the one technique called dynamic paint. So let me drag another file over here to show you what I have done. Yeah, I know this is supposed to be a pretty short Blender tutorial, but this is what I did. I just want to show you the whole process, how I achieved this look. Okay, so in here, so basically I'm actually creating a stimulation using the dynamic paint. So I can go in here. Where was that? Oh yeah, I should go here, and particle system, and this is dynamic paint. So if I hit the space bar, you can see, yeah, it's actually kind of getting, it's like a rain effect, right? It's stuff raining from the top and put it down here, and to actually having some ripple effect in here. So what I use the frame number 69. I think that's the one I used earlier for the paint. You can pick through whichever one you want, and then you can use that. How to do that? There are tons of Blender tutorials about how to use dynamic paint. So I'm just gonna briefly show you how I did this thing. Okay, let's go drag this one all the way to 0. So basically, you just going to adding 2 planes, right? This one, add that one, and just start with a plane. I just extrude this whole thing down here to make it a little thicker. Okay, so for this guy, I don't need that. It's just something extra. It's still working right now. So basically how it works, you need adding a particle system to the top. So this is where the rain come from. And so you can just adding a particle system and to change the number to 100. So just don't, the default I think is 1,000. And then the lifetime you can change to 200. And it's just gonna make it last longer, I believe. And then you go to the render tab. So you're gonna choose the object. And after you choose object, then you're gonna using the picker to actually pick this actual instance I made for this for the rain, right? You don't have to really do the exact shape. You can just do a very basic shape, because it's just some object that is going to hit on the water and to having that. So you can, what I use a IMHO sphere. Just do that, and I can drag over here, and I did a Control 2 subdivided surface divided a little bit, and then I just gonna grab the top and scale it down, and grab it and scale it down, and you see what I'm saying, yeah. So this is kind of the general shape of that the raindrop, and I could do a shape smooth, and then I can just pick this one as the instance for the top particle system. Okay, so after that is done, the next thing was going to be, think about this. The reason it's called dynamic paint is because, think about it, this is actually the brush, and this is the canvas. So that's why we are painting on the canvas. So we need to let the blender to really know which one is brush and which one's a canvas. So obviously, if we click that, we want to go to the physics tabs. I think this is a physics property, and we want to go adding as a dynamic paint. Okay, we add it on, and then we're gonna use making sure this is actual brush. It's not anything. It's not canvas. It's brush, because we are affecting the canvas, the other items. So you don't need to do change anything. You just making sure you're gonna choose the source is the particle system that we build, and also the particle system again choosing over there, and then you can have that. And the next thing will be to select the bottom part to add another dynamic paint and to make this as a canvas. So you're actually going to have some effect when the thing is dripping on the down there, and making sure you are going to change the surface type to waves. And another thing for canvas, you have to, when you're adding a plane, right, you have to actually giving enough geometries of that. If you just like this, it's not going to work for dynamic as a canvas. So you have to really just kind of select that. You can just subdivide, and when there's pop window come in, you can just do, I think I did 20, right? You see, it's a lot of geometries for a small plane, but it's very useful when you actually having this as a canvas to actually, it will give you a pretty nice and smooth. You see this? It's going to give you a pretty nice and smooth surface, and the results coming out. Hopefully you get everything I've said, and if not, you can definitely to look at YouTube to really learn how dynamic painting works. But I want to show you the basic frame structure, how I get this renders and the certain things that I build. And after you have done this, and the reason I wanted to show you this and other things, I didn't find any other tutorials do this, is actually once you have this done, for example, if I'm just going wait for a second, I just pick this one. Oh, I like this surface like this, and I think this is very useful, so I can use it in the future, but I don't need to redo all these settings for this dynamic paint. What I can do, I can just go here, go to the export, and then we can export at OBJ file and save it somewhere. And next time, then you can just open Blender to import OBJ file and to find the one you actually had. So if I click here, because this is what I saved, the OBJ file. So here, import OBJ file. Go a second, so it actually will come out. Just give us a second. And yeah, you see the entire set is actually magically showing in our scene right now. As you can see, this is the one we actually want to use. We can just delete the other stuff that we don't need. And the interesting thing is that once we've done that, this thing is actually, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. It takes a little bit longer to light my computer to get things done. So once this thing is done, this is actually a mesh. It's no longer, you see, this is actual a mesh. It's no longer a stimulation that you need to mess with. So you can just use this, or you can even save these for future use for any other project that you can. Okay. I think that's it. It's supposed to be a short Blender tutorials. I made it a little bit longer, but I am hoping all my explanations gonna help you to understand, rather than just to show you how I did it. You need to know why in order to learn a skill and also have your critical thinking and the problem solving skills. That's kind of whole point that I think I want to make when I do a Blender tutorials, trying to help people to understand what they need and then how to create that. Anyway, this is a kind of a new Blender tutorial channels, and I'm very into the photorealistic product rendering. If you're really also into this type of renders, please consider subscribe. And if you also want to know more about stuff I do, we can hang out on social media. You can follow my Instagram account. And yeah, I think we are just going to continue producing these and to getting some amazing renders. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.